accused of kidnapping my own child. This happened over 5 years ago when my youngest son was only a few months old. I will admit that my son and I look nothing alike, as he takes after his mum a lot. Short, blue-green eyes and a mix of blonde and brown hair, gets a lot lighter in the summer. I'm walking through the town centre, doing shopping for either Mother's Day or my girlfriend's birthday, both around the same time, not really paying attention to the crap going on around me, when I hear someone shouting and screaming her kid's been taken. I look around but don't really see where the screaming is coming from. I continue to walk off when I hear her scream, "That's him there, officer!" I'm tackled to the floor by a police officer and the woman runs over and grabs my son. This is kind of important as most babies look unisex for a while. EP, "That man's kidnapping my daughter!" I think you'll find that's my son. Policeman 1 separates us and policewoman 2 has hold of my son while stood next to EP. The EP is now screaming, "I want him arrested now, otherwise you'll be sorry." Calm down, I have your daughter and everything's fine. It's a boy if you bother to check in his nappy. Remain silent, otherwise you'll be charged with resisting arrest. Now the policewoman, after checking what's in the nappy, says, "You better let him go. This is a boy and now you're under arrest." Then reads the woman her rights. "Absolutely sorry about that," as he takes his knee off the back of my neck. "I honestly don't care, now get your hands off my son." I probably swore a bit but can't remember exactly what was said. EP at this point is claiming I've swapped kids with someone, that the police can't tell the difference between boys and girls, and that the police should hand her the child so she can get on with her day with her daughter. All this while being cuffed. The policewoman hands back my child. I turn to her and say, "I'd also like him arrested for assault." The policewoman says, "I can't arrest a police officer for doing his job." "I know you can. It's not my first run-in with an officer accusing me of doing something I didn't." The policewoman then calls for backup to arrest the policeman. Is that legit? I went ahead and pressed charges against both the woman for attempted kidnapping and the officer for assault. His charges were dismissed as he believed he was helping the mother. Okay, that makes more sense. The woman had some mental health issues and had her children, both over 10 and male, taken from her because of her mental health issues. While in court, she was still claiming I stole her daughter and that the police can't tell the difference between reproductive body parts, her words. She was sent to the mental hospital wing in a local prison. Not really sure what happened to her after that, as didn't need to bother myself with her. I hold nothing against the officers, they were just doing their job, but at the time I could have ripped their heads off with words and rage. Wow, it sounds as if OP is still quite mad about this one. Well, this is an interesting comment. I've no issue with the police detaining you while they figure out what is going on, but a tackle and being held down wasn't justified use of force. You weren't running, weren't told to stop by the police, and failed to comply, didn't resist, etc. Regardless of the circumstances, escalation of unnecessary force like that is not needed and should have been punished. You know what, I guess this person's kind of right. Maybe this story is legit after all. EM shows up to school with a shotgun because her son didn't get good grades. The making of a Florida man headline. So this isn't my story, but my social studies teacher's, who just moved here from Florida. I don't know if the EM was high or something, but eventually she came to her senses. Also, I know it's a Florida woman, not a man, but no one really cares, so you can F off. So the teacher that EM was mad at in particular wasn't my social studies teacher, but he was in her class. Now, this kid had the IQ of a goldfish. He missed half the classes and my teacher wouldn't tell us what his grades were, but they were awful. Now, he was absolutely bombing one of the classes, like he actually managed to get a negative grade in. Points off for the assignment being late and it being incorrect. So I guess EM had got on the report card and not been happy. So instead of considering the fact that her son literally had an IQ lower than his age, she decided a bright idea was to pull up to school with a goddamn shotgun. Not even like a pistol or anything, but a frickin' shotgun. So naturally, the school goes into a code red lockdown and the police are called. Once the school goes into lockdown, EM decides this is a good time to leave and go home. So the SWAT team end up searching the area for 30 minutes. After that, they go to the house and arrest this crazy lady, and she ends up arrested on various charges. Also, it turns out she had a criminal record and she wasn't even allowed to be holding a firearm, so that's a bonus. Just another day in Florida. A stitch in time. I've been binge watching videos of r/EntitledParents stories and really wanted to contribute one myself. I haven't yet been able to remember any experiences of my own, so I asked a Japanese American friend of mine, we'll call her I, because I knew she grew up with a mum who was a real piece of work. She shared one of her "you won't believe what my mum did" stories with me, and I thought it might work here. Character key, I, pronounced like I call her that cause I love her, the victim. EM, my friend's mum, entitled mother. OD, I's okay dad. He never did anything mean, just didn't stop his wife when he should have. GM, I's grandmother, to whom she was very close. The background. So, Ai's mother is a native Japanese. She was born there, immigrated to the US after college, speaking almost fluent English. I'm not sure if she specifically came to marry Ai's dad, the OD, a white American, or if they met while both here. That detail is a little fuzzy to me. I do know they married within a year of her coming here, and I was their only child, though I think OD has a son from a previous relationship. Now, I was both spoiled and somewhat abused by her mother, which I hope I'll be able to explain. EM was always very concerned about how the family looked to outsiders. Their house had to look like a magazine was coming later to take photos for its next issue. The parents each had a car and they always had to look brand new. OD was always getting hassled if he dared to wear a pair of pants with a single loose thread. EM herself was always wearing expensive clothes, makeup, hair done perfectly, I'm sure you get the picture. And I think that EM saw I as an extension of herself. From babyhood till almost her teen years, I had to be constantly dressed up. Imagine how a small child might look for a fancy party or an important photo. Pricey dress, big bow in the hair, matching Mary Janes, and that's how I had to look all the time. She wasn't allowed to ever get dirty and was expected to just have endless tea parties with her expensive dolls, I guess. Her real name even roughly means princess child. From the outside, I probably looked like she had made it. Nice clothes, wealthy family, a daddy who worshipped her, the most popular toys, and mum who was very much ahead of the PTA involved type. But the truth was, I felt stifled, even unloved by her mother. I was smart and always got good grades, but her mother would complain about anything lower than an A+. If I asked to wear jeans so she could play outside, EM guilted her about how expensive her dresses were and told her she had all the latest toys so she could play with them indoors. I had her own laptop and smartphone before others of her age generally do, but this wasn't to make her happy. It was because it made the family look good for a girl not yet in her teens to have a MacBook and an iPhone. And she had no say in her wardrobe until she was at least 13, at which time her maternal grandmother, who I adored, gave her a green suede jacket, which I never saw, but Ace said it was the one piece of clothing she ever had that she loved the most. One day, she came home from school, intending to grab a jacket before walking her neighbour's dog. She was doing this because the neighbours were on vacation, and couldn't find the green suede jacket. I asked her mum, who said, "Oh, there was a hole in it that couldn't be fixed, so I threw it away. We don't wear damaged clothes in this family." I was really upset, not least because EM didn't seem sad about it in the least. Next time I visited her grandma, she told her GM about the jacket, and to cheer her up, GM showed I her favourite kimono. Picture a Japanese person, most likely what they're wearing is a kimono, which I never saw either, but I said it was a deep brown and patterned with trees and leaves all in gold, just absolutely gorgeous. The GM told her, "When I die, you can have this kimono to make up for what you've lost, and to remember me." At this, I felt a little better, and to help her get her mind off the lost jacket, the GM spent the afternoon showing her pictures and telling her family stories she hadn't heard before. When I was 17, her GM died after a fairly short illness, something to do with lungs I think. I had been visiting her in the hospital daily, doing everything she could for GM, and had to do it alone because her EM was busy and basically couldn't be bothered to do anything for her own dying mother. At the funeral, she put on a big show of grief to get attention and be consoled, but I said the funeral was the only time she saw EM cry over GM, and those tears were either partly or entirely fake. EM sure showed up to the reading of the will though, and openly showed dissatisfaction with what the bequest left her, some amount of money, I don't know how much, and complained that I was left any money at all, though it had been set up in an account only I could access and not until her 18th birthday. I think GM put safeguards in place so EM couldn't get at the money. The will also listed some property, including the aforementioned kimono. I was so happy to be reminded that she was getting it, but after the reading, her mother went up to her and said, "I hope you don't think you're getting that kimono. I'm GM's eldest daughter and I deserve it." While the family was still grieving, EM was invited by some friends on a vacation somewhere tropical, supposedly to get her mind off her grief. Yeah, right. So she jetted off, basically leaving I to sort through and divide her GM's belongings by herself. She spent days in the house that was filled with a lifetime of paperwork and belongings, finally coming across the well-stored kimono she'd been shown years ago. This was when her very justified revenge began. When EM returned from her trip, she saw that some of GM's belongings had been placed around the house and in I's room, so she went to her daughter to demand the brown and gold kimono. With an expression of absolute innocence, I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, mother. There was a hole in it that couldn't be repaired, so I had to throw it away. After all, we don't wear damaged clothes in this family, right?" I wishes, and so do I, that she had a picture of her mother's facial expression at that moment. Understand, this was not just a sentimental keepsake or a pretty dress for a party. Old kimonos, if well made and in good condition, can be sold to collectors for many thousands of dollars, which was probably what the EM had been planning to do. She started to speak several times, kept getting so flustered her words wouldn't come out, and finally she just walked away. I didn't get in any trouble. Her father would have stepped in if she had. She had just been following her family rule, right? When I told me this story, I said, shame about the kimono though, that it was ruined. I laughingly informed me that the kimono is in flawless condition. She keeps it stored in a hidden compartment in her closet. Even if her mother finds out about this, the will is clear, and EM could get in legal trouble if she tried to take it. After she moves out of her parents' house, I plan to send her mother photos of herself in the kimono, which apparently looks amazing on her. No one sent to jail, yet at least. No violence, but I find this story pretty satisfying. I hope it has pleased you, reader, and I hope it has pleased all you guys as well. Hands down, that's one of the best stories I've read on this subreddit. I is a great person, and that comeback was amazing. Now, if you enjoyed that video, I've created a custom playlist of my very best Reddit stories that you can go and binge watch right now. So click on the screen and I'll see you over there in a second.